You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It was a very Merry Christmas for Nikola Jokić and the Nuggets, who played the Grinch for the Timberwolves, and fans that stayed up to watch the Christmas Day nightcap in Denver as the Nuggets got a combined 91 points from their two stars to pull out a 142-138 victory despite an Anthony Edwards explosion to force overtime. But the good news is the Timberwolves are still tied for the fourth spot in the Western Conference standings with the Los Angeles Lakers after they fell to the Houston Rockets earlier today. What's going on? Back at it tonight for a very late Wolves postcast, pushing 1 a.m. here in Minneapolis, right here on the Locked On Minnesota Network, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, thanks to all of you, our everydayers, is now the #1 sports podcast network nationwide. I'm Jack Borman, riding solo again tonight without my co-host Luke Inman, who is enjoying his holiday break. This is our live reaction show. We go live within 10-15 minutes of every single Timberwolves game. So if you are listening to the Locked On Wolves or Locked On Minnesota podcast version of this show, please be sure to check us out on YouTube, on either the Locked On Wolves or Locked On Minnesota YouTube channel. Also, please go give our guy Ben Beacon a follow. He's doing an excellent job hosting the Locked On Timberwolves daily show on the Locked On Wolves YouTube and the Locked On Wolves audio feed, wherever you get your podcasts. So diving into this one tonight, we'll get into our player of the game. We'll second guess some things that went wrong, and what we'll be talking about. But first, Timberwolves playing in their fourth Christmas Day game all time, second straight year after they won in Dallas last year. Jaden McDaniels comes back after missing the last game with a hip contusion or an oblique contusion. And then Bones Highland missed shoot around, was downgraded to questionable with an illness, but he also played. Nuggets coming into this game 7-2 in their last 9, playing without Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon, like they have for the last several weeks. But Cam Johnson suffered a bone bruise in Dallas in their last game in his right knee, and he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks, apparently. So see how that turns out for the Nuggets. And there was a really chaotic start to this game. The Wolves start out 1 of 5 with 3 turnovers in the first 3 minutes. Nuggets, not really a team that forced a lot of turnovers. There's a lot of just mental mistakes, kind of careless with the basketball from the Wolves, but they stayed in it, forced 3 turnovers of their own. Ant makes a couple of threes. And it really, Ant and Jokić kind of set the tone for what was going to be an epic battle in the first quarter. Those two guys, Jokić scores 18, accounts for 28 of the 32 Nuggets points. Ant goes off for 14, and the Wolves scored 10 points off of 6 Nuggets turnovers. So they did a really good job of being physical and aggressive on the defensive end of the floor. But Ant falls awkwardly, hurts his right shoulder, hitting a knee of one of his teammates. It was wearing a wrap on the bench to start the second quarter. Nuggets get on a nice run, part of an extended 26-9 run to take a 9-point lead. Wolves respond by going 17-0, extended run, starting out, obviously winning the non-Jokić minutes. And Jaden and Nas both played well. They scored an assist on the first 13 of that run. Rudy was excellent during this stretch, as part of what was kind of a theme of the night for him, where he was excellent, but he picks up his third foul. So the Wolves have to kind of do something different. They trade buckets. Nuggets lead by 2 at the half. Jokić scores or assists on 40 of the Nuggets' 57 first half points, almost has a triple-double in the first half. And again, Rudy was excellent. They were plus 13 in his minutes, but was cut short to foul trouble. Nuggets start the second half on a 9-2 run, and then Rudy Gobert picks up his 4th foul, heads to the bench. You're kind of thinking, all right, this is do or die time, but the Timberwolves just kind of keep hanging around. You kind of look at the scoreboard and you're thinking, how is this only a 10, 12, 13-point game when it felt like they were down 20? And kind of hanging around is just the name of the game when, you've got a player like Anthony Edwards, because, even though the Timberwolves don't really win the non-Jokić minutes to start the fourth quarter, he just keeps them in it. And we'll get into how he was able to do it and everything he did. But, leads the Wolves on a huge run down the stretch of the game. It's a 3 to force overtime. Wolves score the first 9 points of overtime, but then kind of just go brain neutral offensively, allow the Nuggets to get back in it, go on an 11-2 run to tie it right away. And then Jokić and Jamal Murray were just too much down the stretch for the Wolves as they win 142-139. 38. Big picture here. The Wolves were a plus 20 in the paint, 70-50. They were a plus 13 in points off turnovers, 26-13. They're a plus 12 off or 15 off the bench, 26-11. And they were a plus 17 on the fast break, 31-14 on the fast break. But they shot the ball awfully from three. They were 12 of 45 from three. Jamal Murray by himself was 9 of 18. Nuggets had a great night from three, 19 of 43. And it's just really difficult to win in today's NBA when you're outscored by 21 points on the 3-point line. It's also tough to win when you don't have Nikola Jokić on your team. Nikola Jokić goes by far the best game of the year of any NBA player this year. 56 points, 16 rebounds, 15 assists. He was 15 of 21 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three, 22 of 23 from the free throw line. Was just incredible in this game. And just some injury notes for the Wolves. Ant stayed in there, obviously, after injuring his shoulder, and they lose TJ Shannon. He re-aggravated that left foot that he's been having issues with, throughout the majority of this season. So, bummer that he was ruled out rather quickly after he exited the game. But yeah, let's get into it here, starting with our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Normally don't do these in a loss, but Anthony Edwards certainly warrants discussion tonight. He had 44 points, 40-point game of the season for Ant. He had 14 points in the first quarter, like I said, but hurts his shoulder. Shoots just 2 of 8 on jump shots over the next 2 quarters and change. Does not score in the second quarter, but in the third quarter, kind of got back in it by getting to the free throw line, and I think drove it strong to the cup. Picked up some contact, got to the foul line. I think just seeing the ball go through and trusting in his shoulder a little bit after he was really working on it. Looked really uncomfortable, was doing the whole stretching the whole shoulder thing out, pretty much any time there was a break in the action in the second and the third quarter. But then in the fourth quarter just goes absolutely bananas in a way that only Anthony Edwards really can, especially in Denver. On that end of the court in Denver, he's done some pretty heinous things to Nuggets fans, and that continued for the majority of the clutch time and overtime. The Nuggets go up 106-91 after a Jokić bucket with 5:54 to play. Ant then proceeds to score 20 points over the next 7.5 minutes, including a crazy game-tying 3. It's pretty rare that you see, a coach drop an ATO, inbound play when you're down 3 with 3 seconds left. A mid-post kind of situation to get the ball to Ant where he can then shoot a step back, fall away 3. It worked out perfectly because Ant hit the shot and it was, going away from any help, but it's just risky considering that, you could just foul in the catch and the Wolves would have been kind of cooked there. But an incredible individual effort from Anthony Edwards to send this game to overtime. Then hits a banger 3 in overtime to cap, what was a 9-0 run at that point. The Timberwolves go up 124-115 when Ant makes a 3 with 3 minutes left in overtime. And then they just completely unravel from there. But just for Ant, playing hurt to, he very easily could have just checked out of the game and tried to stop, kind of playing and futzing around with his shoulder and just said, this isn't a playoff game. We're not going to, I don't want to, have our season go down the tubes by me, trying to play with this injured shoulder and it all going bad. But to Ant's credit, he stayed in the fight and he showed up in a monster way when his teammates needed him. And I just think the fire that he brought, offensively especially, but defensively, the way that he was willing to check up on Jamal Murray on the other end of the floor in important possessions down the stretch, I thought was great. And his ball pressure forced Jamal Murray to be 6-7 feet beyond the 3-point line in a way that made it difficult for him to get his shot off in that 2-man game with Jokić. And so he really brought it on both ends of the floor. And that was certainly excellent. But again, I think there are certainly some things that the Timberwolves wanted to have back on the tail end of that kind of that 33-9 run that Ant leads. I mean, he outscored the Nuggets 20-9 from the 5:54 mark of the fourth quarter to that moment when he hits a crazy 3 in overtime. So just a great game from Ant, but from there it was tough sledding.
Since hindsight is always 20/20, let's deliver today's second guess.
Yeah, second guessing, I think, was just the Timberwolves' offensive process once they got up 9 in this game. I think, again, you're up 9 with 3 minutes left, and the one thing that you can't do is let the opponent speed you up, and that's certainly what happened with the Timberwolves' offense, especially in the half court. They made no effort to get downhill and get in the paint. This is a Nuggets team that doesn't really have any rim protection to begin with, but without probably their best perimeter defender in Christian Brown and their best weak side rim protector and Aaron Gordon, there's really not a whole lot there. And neither Ant nor Julius Randle nor Jane McDaniels made any effort to try to get downhill. Instead, they just took quick shots that allowed the Nuggets to get out and run going the other way. Nuggets get 2 threes to go down, and the Wolves even then. Julius Randle comes down and takes an inexplicable sidestep 3. If anybody were to do that, it would be Ant in that situation, given how hot he was and how confident he was. But they just let the Nuggets off the hook, plain and simple, with their process down the stretch, the final 3 minutes. And I think, again, not being able to play the high screen roll game with Rudy after he fouled out, especially with under a minute left in overtime, what was tough as well. But again, I just think for a team that has played as many clutch time games and as many important situations as the Timberwolves have over the last 2-3 seasons, it's just disappointing that they have these situations where several of their important players just kind of go brain neutral in important situations. And I just think there's too many inexcusable mental errors when it comes to the game getting too fast for guys and them not able to sense like, hey, let's just slow it down here. Let's bleed the clock. And if we need to throw up a grenade or take a shot clock violation so that we can't, let Denver turn us over and get out and run going the other way or play off of a miss. So I think that's just something that, Julius Randle, he kind of shoulders some of that with that sidestep 3. Rudy Gobert got an offensive rebound and tried to go up with it when he very clearly did not have great control over the basketball and would have been better to just kick the ball out and let the Wolves, reload. But again, it's 1 of 82. It's a regular season game. This is a team that's proven they can do it in the playoffs. But you'd still just like to see them be able to close one of these out. So, but that's going to happen. So. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Between bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes, it's all happening at once. And while we're making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, available in 45 states, including here in Minnesota, California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats, from fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whichever fits your strategy. And the new Stacks feature lets you choose the same player up to 3 times in one lineup, like more on a QB's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Deposits and withdrawals are quick and easy, which keeps everything flowing. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. The show is also brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun. Because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out, certainly like tonight. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. Sometimes you just need dessert now. The group chat says pull up. DoorDash makes sure you show up prepared with snacks, cups, even a phone charger for that friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. All righty. Diving a little deeper into this one, Rudy Gobert was tremendous in the minutes that he did play. And the bummer was that he left the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and overtime early because of foul trouble. Just for reference, with Rudy Gobert on the floor, Timberwolves won his minutes by 18 points in his 34 minutes. They had a defensive rating of 98.6, which is absolutely unbelievable when you're going against a Nikola Jokić led offense, even if they have three starters out. And Jokić, I mean, again, these numbers seem, calling this a good job by Rudy defensively, given what the numbers are pretty crazy, but you have to take it, in context with the fact that he had 56 points in this game. So Jokić with Rudy on the floor had 25 points, missed 5 shots, had 5 assists, only 2 offensive rebounds, and shot 8 free throws. With Rudy off the court in 19 minutes, Jokić had 31 points in the 19 minutes Rudy sat. He missed 1 shot, had 10 assists in 19 minutes, 3 offensive rebounds, and shot 15 free throws. So Jokić goes absolutely bananas. The Timberwolves have a 157 defensive rating. Again, 157 with Rudy off the floor compared to 98 with him on the floor. And they lose the non-Rudy minutes by 22 points and lose by 4, which is pretty remarkable considering just everything that Rudy gave them. I think the ability to have Rudy be there to clean up the glass too was really important. The Timberwolves with Gobert on the floor had a defensive rebound percentage of 80, which would be the best in the league right now if the season ended today. And then, the Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert off the floor had a defensive rebound percentage of 66, which would be tied for dead last in the NBA. So it's hard to understate just the impact that he had defensively on this game. But again, you got to be able to stay in the game. And people might say, Scott Foster or whatever. I don't think there were many bad calls that went against Rudy in this game tonight. I just thought that, there were certain moments where he just let some of his frustration get the best of him. And I wholly empathize with that playing against Nikola Jokić, because he's probably the most infuriating player to have to guard, maybe in the history of the NBA. But again, you just got to be able to try to keep your composure a little bit better in some of those moments. But again, I think Rudy, this is arguably the best stretch of his Timberwolves career, the way that he's been just dominant on the defensive end of the floor. If it were up to me, he would win his 5th Defensive Player of the Year award this year, which would be the most all time. But again, just couldn't necessarily stay on the floor in some of these moments. And Julius Randle and Naz Reid couldn't make up for it in any stretch of the imagination. I thought both of those guys were awful defensively tonight, especially off the ball. When the shot went up, neither one of them did a very good job trying to box out Nikola Jokić. And then when they were off the ball, neither one of them did a very good job keeping an eye on where their man was, especially when you're 1 pass away from Nikola Jokić. And if you're on a basketball court, you are 1 pass away from Nikola Jokić. So that's something that certainly needs to be better, but has been a theme all season. And you could make a pretty good argument that if the Timberwolves, sure, they need a guard next to Anthony Edwards, or in addition to Anthony Edwards, that might be an improvement from the Bones, Mike, Rob triumvirate. But you could also make an argument that they need somebody to be able to be big and rebound and protect the rim a little bit when Rudy Gobert is not out there, and that was apparent tonight. And the supporting cast also struggled in this game offensively with, Jaden McDaniels obviously had 15 of his 21 in the 4th quarter overtime. But before that, he did not make much of an impact on this game. Dante DiVincenzo was 2 of 11, was 0 of 7 from 3. Mike Conley and Jalen Clark, TJ Shannon, those guys played 25 minutes among them. They had 2 points on 6 shots. So you've got to have more there. And then I also, again, I think Naz Reid has to find a way to score more than 13 points in a game like this, where pretty much everybody that he's going to see in front of him is barbecue chicken. And couldn't necessarily find his 3 ball, but we've seen Naz attack the rim and attack the offensive glass more frequently than he did tonight. So it was just they needed more from everybody. And in part, this game was a shot variance type of game, where the Timberwolves, again, probably due to have a game where they only shoot 12 of 45 from 3. And to their credit, like I said off the top, they won a lot of the key areas: points in the paint, fast break points, bench points, points off turnovers. But Jokić and Jamal Murray and 3-point shooting are the great equalizer here. So let's get into what we'll be talking about to round things out.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, I think in the fourth quarter and overtime, you saw how important Jaden McDaniels is. And, we could talk about Ant and how having Ant on your team is remarkable, especially on a showcase stage like Christmas. But moving forward, if Ant's less than 100% with his shoulder issue, now that TJ Shannon is going to be out as another guy who is at least capable of providing some extra scoring punch, I think they just have to get back to playing a little bit more through Jaden McDaniels, especially while Julius Randle struggles to find his 3-point shot. He did make at least 2 threes in a game tonight for the first time in 4 games after shooting. I think it was like 2 of 16 from 3 over his last 4 coming into tonight. But the Timberwolves are 11-4 when Jaden McDaniels scores at least 14 points, and they're 10-7 when he doesn't. And I just think Jaden is exceptionally skilled, has great touch around the rim, is able to get into the paint, can create his own shot, which is super important, and just creates these unbelievable finishing angles that are extremely rare for anybody, let alone a guy that's 7 feet tall and has guard skills and can contort his body in ways that many of us watching can only imagine. And I just think, again, he's super efficient, and the way that he's able to scale up his game when the Timberwolves call his number is super important. And I think it's just something they're going to need to rely on a little bit more so that they're not quite as much of a victim to some of the 3-point variants with Dante and Nas especially. And again, he's certainly capable of it. I know all the guys in the locker room believe in him and want to see him succeed, and they all trust him wholeheartedly. So that's something that I think the Timberwolves might need to get back to a little bit. And was certainly encouraging to see him score 21 points on 12 shots and really turned on in the most important parts of the game tonight. So thank you very much for joining me tonight, staying up late, pushing 1 a.m. here in Minneapolis. We'll be back on Saturday night to break down Wolves Nets, which is a 7 p.m. Central Time tip back here in Minneapolis at Target Center. Until then, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. Hope you had a great time off with your family, and we'll see you Saturday.